people that have this victim mentality, they hold grudges. They will remember that thing forever, and that they lost something because of this thing, and it's going to be brought up whenever that thing is mentioned, and they can't let it go. Like
Yeah.
it, it
Yeah. There's a bunch of them, dude.
But yeah, I feel like every year there's a new group coming out. It's ridiculous.
And they get
Like,
bigger. They add letters.
so now they just added a plus sign, I believe.
I once asked somebody a question very recently. I asked them a question, and it was a why question. And their response was screaming at me in a I don't deserve to be asked questions. I only answer to myself.
How's that work?
Chosen, I follow the call. My soul is breaking free. You awaken me. Stolen my time to move on, but now I can see seizing destiny. Welcome to my evolution.
Welcome back to the dumbest guy in the room. I'm your host, Bill. We got Eddie. He's remote today. And Mike is going to join us to talk about victim mentality. This is a very big subject that I think about a lot. It is something that I think is getting bigger and bigger and bigger as time moves forward. And I just want to kind of talk it out and get your guys' opinion on it and see see what you guys know or what you guys think about victim mentality. I'm going to start with you, Ed. When it comes to victim mentality, man, what's like the first
I
thing
feel like
you think
it
of?
kind of goes like hand in hand with like the whole like cancel culture. Like I feel like everyone nowadays, I don't know if it's because it's easier to play the victim, but like everyone likes to cry victim, no matter like whether it's race or gender or sexuality or whoever it is. Like I feel like it's easier for them to just play the victim than it is to just like take it on the chin and continue to move forward. They go, woe is me, and my life sucks because this person presses me or this person said this. And I mean, for me, I can't stand it. Like everyone has their own issues and problems in life. Like if you talk to someone, their life might be 10 times worse, or like their childhood might be 10 times worse. Like everyone has a story. So like just because you're Hispanic or black or Asian or gay or trans, like everyone has a story. Everyone has a problem. So like how are you going to sit there and cry that, oh, I'm a victim of this, that, and the third, when everyone's a victim? So just like don't sit there and cry about it. Like just move forward, learn from it, and move forward.
I see it. I understand that, and I think that is a big thing where we and I kind of put that in put that in the box of collective victimization, where it's like these groups are formed on purpose, and there's an agenda behind it, and it's a shame because it's so easy to fall victim to victim mentality, right? So I look at it from a political standpoint, dude. If you look at politicians, dude, look at really anybody that's a leader of a group that is focused on one human dimension, and they always create an enemy, right? They create fear. They put fear in these people, and there's this power or this force, this other group of people, this thing that can't be defeated unless you follow me. If you follow me, I will be your savior. So follow me. And now you've got this whole group of people that don't react when they get offended when you say, Mike, if I went to Mike and I'm like, yo, Mike, you are a piece of shit, you're just mean, dude, you're always saying these things. And I come directly at Mike. Like that really, if you think about it, dude, not a lot of people really care when people say that. You know, like they say, I don't care what people think of me. But God forbid you attack that human dimension that they define themselves by, it's over. They're gonna freak out. They don't know how to react to that. And I was a victim of, like, I still think that it comes out of me once in a while, right? So I'm not completely not perfect when it comes to not having a victim mentality. I think acknowledging that that you're capable of having that helps you not fully become that. But I think I was that, dude. Like I always that's why I drank. You know, I was always like, why the world is against me? The world, I'm going to drink it away. And it's just, I didn't want to take responsibility. And, you know, and I just think we go through that all the time. So Mike, I'm going to pass it to you, dude. Like, what do you define as victim mentality? Is it real? And is it what do you think it is, man? Is it real? Does it exist?
In psychology, there's a term called learned helplessness. And it's basically when you are taught that no matter what you do, you're not going to you're not going to be relieved of whatever pain. So then once you start getting that mentality, then you just quit trying to fix things. And then if you also at the same time have a society like we have, where we coddle people who, like, from childhood on up, now we are coddling people that if it's in sports, or it's no more bullies, which they're not bad things. Like, we want to help people that are being oppressed, but then that also takes away the aspect of getting a rough exterior, being able to kind of shrug off issues that you should be able to get thick skin to. And when you have a society that's raising children up through adulthood, where there is going to be a savior, and whether that's government or the principal, the teacher, your boss, somebody's going to come in and say, hey, you can't do that. You can't tell Mike that because he belongs to this group and that's offensive. And you discipline the bully instead of having the person that's getting bullied stand up for themselves. Then you create a whole group of people that want a savior to come in, whether that's the government or Twitter followers or whatever, to come in and say, you're canceled, you should lose your job. What's your boss? I'm going to go email your boss because you said that messed up thing. Those are crazy circumstances, but they've happened. So it's kind of a reflection of our society. But when I first think of the victim mentality, it kind of ties in what you were talking about. Where we grew up, we knew a lot of quote unquote addicts. Now, whether that's addict to drugs or alcohol or other things, you find a lot of our friends or family or whatever that are addicts that kind of have that victim mentality. So they can't rise above their addiction because they haven't addressed that issue that they're not just a victim, that millions of people are victims of similar things to them that aren't addicted to something. So they always have this thing back here. Well, this happened to me. So yeah, like I got in a car accident. So these pills I got addicted to from the doctor should have never wrote me that script. So now I'm addicted. Well, get past that part and rise above it. You don't need to be, you wrote that script 10 years ago. All right. You don't still need to be on the pills or heroin or whatever. Yeah, that shitty thing happened to you, but when are you going to address that? Now it's 10 years later and you have an addiction problem and it's affecting your family and your friends and your job and your future. We have to move on past that. And that's just a small thing, but that's one of the first things I think of, because growing up, a lot of addicts, and every single one of them has a sob story because terrible things happen to everyone. And if you want to make your life about that terrible thing that happened to you, then your future is not going to be great. We need to have a society that can rise above those things, help each other get through being a victim, but you have to be your own savior in some things, not look for other saviors, is what I'm trying to say.
I think I like that, dude. And I think when it comes to the prescription drugs, man, like I think that has a lot. Like I'm trying to, I don't know, 'cause, like if I go back and like I don't know what drugs were out prior to like what prescriptions were being prescribed to people for these mental health things. Like we have so many mental health problems now.
Everybody wants a pill to answer their problems these days too, man.
Right. And so like when did that all start? Like when, like what was really out 30, 40 years ago? Because if you think about it, man, like those drugs are band-aids. All it's doing is hiding the problem.
Yeah.
The drug is not fixing the problem.
It's leveling out your either hormones or whatever, so you're not getting your natural reaction to things. But
Right.
that's not necessarily the answer either.
Correct. You're not fixing the problem by taking these drugs. Now, some people need them, or like there's people out there that need them, I guess. For me, like Liam, for example, when we got here, he was a whole grade behind because of the vid and the school closing, and he was doing online school. So when he got here in first grade, he was really at a kindergarten level. So the kid was so far behind. He was nervous. He wasn't confident. He just doesn't pay attention sometimes. Like he looks like he's paying attention, but his mind's wandering, just like me. And we got a call from the counselor that they wanted to evaluate him for ADHD. And so I called them and I was like, what is it that you like? What are the solutions if you're evaluating them? And they're like, well, we would recommend them to this or that. And I said, well, I don't mind if you do the evaluation, but I'm not putting him on drugs. I don't think that's he needs to learn to live with that. Because if you think about it, man, it's like, what's wrong with what he's doing? There's nothing wrong with what he's doing. It's just that it doesn't fit into what you see as this perfect person, I guess. Like you should be here and you should think this way.
That's my biggest beef with doctors is they want to go to pills first. Why not
immediately?
What is he eating? What's his diet? What's his activity level?
Yes.
What is he doing outside of school? Can we get him up earlier, take him for a walk? Can we do something else to kind of get his energy level down besides jumping straight to pills?
Yeah.
And that's my biggest beef with doctors is they just got a prescription for everything. And it's
immediately.
They like from being in the medical field, like that's the solution for, I would say, a very large percentage of doctors is to throw a pill at it.
Bro, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep when I came out of college, and it was cool to get that perspective because, first of all, I was not qualified to be detailing doctors on what they should be writing their patients.
Right.
Just because I went to like a training program at this pharmaceutical headquarters for a couple of weeks does not mean I'm smart enough to be detailing doctors on the right pill for their patients.
Yeah.
So, and we were also taught how to suggest to doctors how to write pills for off-label use, which is illegal. And it's a screwed up industry. And I'm glad I got out.
What do you mean? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. What do you mean off-label use? What does that mean?
So all drugs are prescribed for one or multiple reasons, but they've been tested for that specific reason. So say you have like dermatitis or some kind of rash and you're taking a pill for it. Now that pill can also affect people in different ways. And if one of the other, say it's clearing up my rash, but it could also treat the fungus on my toes at the same time. It's not approved to treat the fungus on my toes, but even though it could clear it up, I could, as the sales rep, I could say, hey doc, I know it's approved for the rash, but if you have patients coming in that just have this toe fungus, you can give them my pill, even though it's not approved for that, because it'll work for that too. So the FDA has to approve what your drug is labeled for. It's studied. They go through all the studies. I mean, except for the COVID drugs, but they go through the studies and make sure it's safe and effective, and you're approved for that reason. Now, if you want to add another reason to your drug, you got to do the same exact thing for that second reason. And it takes years and the same studies. But if you get a smart salesman to go in and say, hey, it also works this way, even though it's not technically labeled for that, you can, hey doc, you can write it for that. So that's they teach you how to sell stuff like that. So it's a shady business. And every drug has side effects. I mean, if you're taking a drug, it turns things off in your body and it turns things on. And it's called the mechanism of action. And that's what the drug does in your body. So it turns receptors on or it turns things off. Or it affects the chemistry of your body. So you're supposed to take the lowest effective dose of every drug you take. Now, that's not the case in most drugs. So it's a messed up industry for sure. I know
That's what drove me crazy about like people that took like everyone's on freaking blood pressure medication.
Yeah, exactly.
And instead of telling them like, how about like some people are genetic, like it is what it is, like they have to, but like for the majority of people, like diet and exercise.
Sure.
How about you go get a gym membership and go talk to this dietitian and figure out a good diet for you to help lower your sodium intake or whatever. But then like instead they just throw these pills at them for blood pressure and then they have a side effect to that. So then they give them another pill to combat that side effect from that pill.
And then people wonder why they feel like shit.
Taking 8 pills for the day. It's crazy.
Yeah, people wonder why they feel like shit and they can't sleep and they can't think at work. It's because instead of tweaking the way you're living, you'd rather take a pill for it, which it's really not the easiest thing. I mean, it's much easier to change your diet and exercise than to just pop a pill.
It's like next time you get a prescription from like the doctor or whatever, and you go like fill it and they give you like that booklet of shit that's stapled to the bag, open that booklet up and look at the list of side effects. It's sometimes like 2 pages long of side effects and the print's this freaking big.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And that's what I mean, dude. But those pills, you're going to take them for the rest of your life. Like
it's a thing.
You know what I mean? And
they are.
They either and then they become this. That's all they need.
And
that
a lot of them are only meant to be temporary.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not meant to be taking forever.
Right.
Like you see these people that take like Suboxone to help get off narcotics, and it's supposed to be a temporary drug to help taper off and then stop. And then you see some of these people that I know some that were on it for years,
and they say they're sober.
Yeah, and they were on it for freaking years. Like there's one girl I knew, like she was on it for like 8 years.
I mean, look, I think for that, it comes to if your life is at least a little bit better and that's where you're at, great. You know, but I think the problem comes into play when you really think about it, man. It's like those are band-aids and we're not focused on fixing a problem. So the problem's still there. How long is that medicine actually going to work for? So like you're just taking it now to feel normal, but now the problem's coming back up. So like, how do you fix that? Right? It's like, it's kind of getting crazy. Honestly, it's getting crazy where we're at with like, what is the mental health and what is a mental disorder? Like, where does it,
man.
Where's the lines at, dude? Like,
I mean, I get tying back to like Liam with ADHD. Like I was diagnosed young as shit. Like, and this is before, like now it's simple. You talk to a doctor, psychiatrist.
I was in
they answer these, you have to answer like these certain questions a certain way, whatever. And like, that's kind of like how they diagnose. Back then, like when I got diagnosed, they put me in an MRI machine. They did like all this shit to try and figure out what was wrong. And they prescribed me medication. I think it was Concerta. It's like same thing as like Ritalin. And I took it for like maybe a month and then I stopped because I didn't like the way it made me feel. And my mom was like, I'm not going to force you to take a pill. And then I've lived with it. And I mean, it took me a long time, probably to like my early 20s to learn coping mechanisms and ways to deal with it, especially when I started to go back to college, to figure out ways to pay attention in class and to pay attention when I'm doing schoolwork or like homework or whatever, writing a paper. Like I had to learn little things along the way to help keep my focus and deal with like that ADHD, because I'm the same way, especially in class. Like if you're talking about something that honestly I don't really care about, then I'm looking out the window, I'm playing with my finger, I'm playing with a pen, I'm looking at people in class.
It's everybody. I think everybody, I don't know. I just think that we're trapped in our own head, right? So I'll take it back to the victimization. There's really two ways that I see people doing it. And this, I saw this in myself as well. You have the one victimization of you are basically entitled to your perception of your perception of your reality and your victimhood. So basically, you're always the hero of your story, right? You don't really see it that way, but if you look at somebody that is always the victim, like this is always happening to me, and then if you question them or anything, it's like, look at all this, but they're always the same people that are pretending to help everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're doing all this, and then when things are going wrong, it's like, poor me, why me? But there's really this other, and honestly, I think that one comes from not having the true intention behind it. Like your intentions aren't real. So like what you're perceiving as your intention's not really your intention. There's something else behind it as far as trying to help other people. You're hiding something else that you don't have to deal with your own shit. You're going to deal with everybody else's shit and then play victim. So you're always like the hero in your own victimhood.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
you
kind of
bring up
crazy to think about.
they bring up all the great things that they're doing for other people, and then they say, "Look what's happening to me," even though I'm
Yes.
doing all these great
I'm
things.
doing all these good things. Look at me though. Why is there all this bad stuff happening to me when I'm so good?
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't be talking about the good things that you're doing, because if you're doing them just to mask your own problems, that's a problem. Maybe you should fix yourself, and then you'll be able to help other people. If you don't fix yourself, man, you can't help other people.
Bro,
It's
and social
impossible.
media has just killed reality. Like nobody is
Yeah.
real anymore. Like
Yeah, dude.
they project the fakest life, and they care what people think, and it's not who they really are at all. Like people, and then you see their Instagram. It's like, what? This is two different people. Like this
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, and that is the truth, man. It's the truth. I tell Kristen all the time, like we're out taking pictures of the kids, and one of them's acting up, and you're yelling at them to smile, and now you got this beautiful picture, but the beautiful picture was actually in reality was everybody screaming at each other to smile. So like 10 years later, you look at the picture and you're like, look how happy we were. It's like, no, I remember that a little differently. It was frustrating, and you couldn't get all the kids to sit, and it didn't look like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of crazy. And I think the other victimization tool is you blame the system. So there's
Oh.
the system in place that is holding you back. And I think that they are two different kind of people. They can kind of commingle. But I just think that I personally believe that it's so hard to let go of once you have that as a crutch, because it relieves all responsibility from you, and it's all their fault. So when things aren't going right, you have this crutch to lean on
And
when
people
all
without
falls
the
down.
people without the victim mentality, when they are the victim, they're trying to fix their situation. Whereas there's always going to be a system to blame, or a person that's offending you for certain things. And people that don't have the victim mentality can either shrug that off, or find a way above it, or around it, or move on from it. Say, even if you can't rise above, they move on from it. But people that have this victim mentality, they hold grudges, they will remember that thing forever, and that they lost something because of this thing, and it's going to be brought up whenever that thing is mentioned, and they can't let it go. Like
Yeah.
it held them back, and everyone's going to know about it whenever they can bring it up. So I think it takes some introspection to see how you are as a person, to be able to say, yeah, I was a victim there, but I'm not going to be a victim forever for that thing. Like it's over. I got to move on. I got to better myself.
Mm-hmm. If you just kind of take a step back and look, because what I noticed in myself, I talk about this a lot, but this is kind of where it comes from, is in the victim mentality, which is really narcissism, is what a victim mentality is. You're a narcissist that I think it is a mental disorder, a covert narcissist, where it's that where you're the victim and you're always trying to make other people feel either guilty or you're trying to make other people turn against each other. So you're like talking about them, and you're just
Yeah.
taking advantage of good people by utilizing your victim mentality. So you're literally taking yourself and you're like, look what happened to me. Can you please do this? And
What-
people will do it because they're kind and they have a good heart. Those are the people that get taken advantage of by
Yeah, you kind of mentioned you were that way back when you were
Yeah.
kind of crazy and you could figure what that like soft spot was and you could manipulate people through it.
Yes, I always did, dude. I could sense it, right? Like I knew it. And that's where if I go back and I look at all the people that I did it to, they all have the same personality. They were always the same kind of person. They had this pain inside of them that they needed to relieve by helping somebody else. And I took it and I would run with it. So like, you're basically mine now. And
Yeah.
you can't escape it because you truly believe the things I'm telling you for some reason. It's really a shame, dude. And you know, like when they say, and here's the other thing, I do believe this. Nietzsche has the quote that says, people, they don't want to know the truth because they don't want to destroy their own illusions, right? And at first I used to look at it from a lot of different point of views. Where I'm kind of narrowing this down is like, let's say me and you or let's say, Mike, you're my brother, right? And you're my brother, and I know in my heart that you're doing these things that are not good, right? They're not good. But instead of me recognizing the truth and telling you the truth, even though it's going to hurt, I constantly give you these little beautiful lies to just try to make you feel better because you're sad or you're whatever about it. And I'm not doing it to really just make you feel better. I also don't want it to be true. So if you tell me that it happened, now it's fucking true. And and now it's like, it's all real, right?
Yeah.
So like, I know it in my heart that this is who this person is and what they're doing. But how can I tell them that? How can I tell them the truth? Because if the truth comes out, my illusion of who you are is just fucking destroyed. And I don't want that to happen. So I don't. And now you're getting worse, I'm getting worse. And the relationship end up, falling
Yeah.
apart because it's never been addressed.
Yeah,
It's always been coddled.
that's a classic, drug abuse brother situation where you know that they're stealing your watch and pawning it and buying drugs with it, but I must have lost it, or like that they're doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, and you can't call them out on it because of all the reasons you said. That's
It's your brother. It's like, right? It's your brother, your cousin, your whatever it is, dude. It's somebody you love that you have this image of who they should be, right? We have this image, and same thing with the world. We have this image in our head of what it should look like. It's never going to look like that. These people, the person, I'll go back to looking at the person that way. I think that's a big problem in relationships today, is we jump into these relationships with women. And when I started dating Kristen, right? Let's say we hung out once. I create this imaginary character of who she is in my head, right? Now she's this person. So time moves forward, and obviously she's not going to be the person that I created in my head. So she's going to do things that aren't, and say things that aren't what I created. She's not the perfect person that I was imagining in my head. And then we start fighting because you used to be this, you should be doing this and that and this. And in reality, that's the person that we thought, like, we wanted you to be. So then I was always trying to create that perfect girl with my imagination. Right. And I think that is what allowed me to like control people, to try to turn them into the things that they're not. And now they don't know who the fuck they are. And now I got them. Now I would have them hooked. And it is painful, man. Like, I don't know. When I talk about this stuff with other people, it's like they look at me like I'm trying to hurt their feelings or something. It's like, it's not what I'm trying to do. The pain, the truth fucking hurts. When they say the truth hurts, that's what the fuck they're talking about. Is the person that really loves you is going to fucking tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Right. They're not going to sit there and baby you and keep doing these little things. They're going to tell you the truth. They're going to be honest with you, and they're going to ask questions. Right. That's what it is. And if you should, the other thing I noticed, man, when people would ask me questions, I would fucking snap if it was a question I didn't want to answer it myself, right? Like I did not want to address this problem yet. And that's the one thing that Kristen did for me, was she asked me fucking hard questions. No, and she knew how I was going to react, but she still fucking asked me. And I had to answer the fucking question, right? And I stopped hiding under the rock. And once you like let it out, it's like fucking relieving, but it fucking hurts. But that's the only way to get past this point. It's like you lie the whole fucking time. You get asked a question and you're fucking back here, but now you can kind of surpass where you were at. If you don't ever address it, you're never fucking moving. You're just staying in that same goddamn spot, and you can't get better.
Yeah.
And people don't want to hear that shit. And it's fucking sad because it affects other people. And
It's
the
tough
saddest
with
part,
people
man, is
tough.
we'll do it, and then we'll create kids, and we'll do it to the kids. So it'll get done to us. It'll happen to us. Let's just say I'm abused. That's what sucks with like sexual, like cases and pedophilia. Like
Yeah.
that person that is the person, the older person doing it to these kids, it was
Abuse.
done to them. They were a victim at one point, and now they're the villain. It's like, what do you want it? Like, you remember how that felt, so you're going to do it to somebody else to take away the pain? Like, no, you deal with your shit, so you don't have to pass that shit on,
Yeah.
right? Like, do you see any, like, I don't know, man. It just frustrates me. This topic frustrates me because I really want people to do better for themselves, and they don't hear it. It's like, you can't hear this. Your ego just stops you in your spot. And I remember it.
That's a good question. Is like, how do you snap somebody out of the victim mentality?
Can't.
Like if they're not ready for it, like, is there anything you can jolt them with that can snap them out of it? Like, it's almost like you watch the interventions on TV. Like, do they need to see their son in the chair next to your mom and dad asking you to get an intervention? Like, I've known people that I'm related to that they left rehab like 3 times with people from the rehab and went and got high when we're thinking they're in the rehab getting healthy. It's like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. But what does it take to get someone out of a victim mentality? And that's not just with drugs. Like, people that want to blame society for everything that's wrong with them. How do you rise above that? And I think our society coddles victims. So most people can't. They're trapped in this mentality. They're trapped in a crappy situation because their parents were trapped in a crappy situations. Their grandparents were trapped in a crappy situation. And they think they're destined to be in the same situation. So why try to get out of it? Why try to be better? That's just the way it's been for all 3 generations of their families. So they're going to live in the same neighborhood and do the same shit that their parents did. And it's like, how do you snap people out to, no, you and the rest of your neighborhood can create a better life for everybody? Or like, how do you, like, it's not just drugs. There's victim mentality everywhere. And a lot of these people are victims, but that doesn't mean that they can't rise above that. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I think that's the point why I wanted to do this podcast. It wasn't to talk shit on victim mentality, right? That's the question. What's the solution? What's the solution to get people to do better for their lives?
What snapped you out of it?
What snapped me out of it? Questions, bro.
Hard questions.
Literally, just questions, and then I had to answer them and deal with it. So it's literally talking, and that's why AA is so effective. Because, and here's the other thing, I'll tell you this. So not just questions. It was questions plus watching people live it. Not them telling me what to do, but watching them literally live out what they are kind of talking about, right? Like, they're not saying, do this, do that, do that. You have to do this and that. And that's why, like, the self-help shit doesn't really work, because all they're doing up there is telling you what to do. You don't actually see them doing it, right? Like, a lot of them people don't, I don't know. That's why I don't think that helps. They're not making people ask themselves questions. They're just up there. It sounds good. The energy's good. You feel good. And then you leave. And for some reason, you don't do any of the stuff that you just thought you were about to do. And it's really because you're not watching somebody do it. So watching somebody do something, and I think that's the best leader. The best leader is somebody that doesn't want followers. It's just people automatically will follow them. And then a really good leader is somebody that kind of pushes their people that do follow them down their own path, right? Like if you look at these leaders, especially like, you know, like Hitler and shit like that, they never want you to stop following them. They just want you. Same thing with our fucking politicians. All they want is for you to follow them. They don't want you to go your own way. It's like you have to follow me. I'm your savior. So for me, it's what, like, find somebody that you really look up to and just kind of, you know, if they're trying to tell you what to do. I don't know. It's hard, man. It's hard to say. Like, I brought it up in the last podcast, but you'll see, is he said when he was sitting in freaking jail, Fat Dan was his inspiration, dude. He's like, if Fat Dan could do it, I could do it. And he's never talked to Fat Dan. He just remembers Fat Dan going to get sober at fucking 19 years old. And this is years later. And that's what he thought about. Fat Dan does not know that Gennel got sober because of him.
That's crazy.
Right? Like, but that's what I mean. But our actions, by actually living out what we say and just doing, people notice it. And whether or not they know it, like, honestly, I couldn't have the same, and kind of the same thing happened with me, but I called Fat Dan that day. So the same kind of thing came to me. I called him and he picked me up for AA, where he was in jail. So I guess he, you know, probably didn't know his number. But the same thing happened to me. If Fat Dan did it, I guess let me try it. So Fat Dan never didn't call me and tell me I needed help. He didn't call me and tell me I was an alcoholic. He never talked to me. When I needed help, his actions popped in my head because I remember him doing it. That's it. And then questions. So in AA, people get up there, they share their story. It sounds similar. And then you're kind of sitting there in silence, questioning yourself. And you're like, oh, I'm not really that much alone.
Yeah.
This happened. And then you start having to think.
Yeah, and it's an inspiration because you see someone that was similar to you now getting out of that situation. So you know it's possible.
Right.
You got to take the first step. I mean,
right. And even when I was in AA and he was my sponsor, he was not like throwing things down my throat that I had to do. It was more like he would talk and share. I would ask questions, and it's like if I didn't show up, he wasn't like blowing me up. It was like, hey, you cool, man? You good?
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was forcing this thing down my throat. It was like he knew that I needed to be the one to put my foot forward and then my other foot. He couldn't do it for me. So I couldn't tell you what it is, man, that gets the solution, but I know that it's not constantly reminding people that they're victims. I know it. And if you look at society today, what's the one thing you're not allowed to really do? You can't ask questions about these groups. You're not allowed to ask them questions. The big thing with the LGBTQ community was if you want to learn about it, you learn about it yourself or ask one of our allies. Don't ask us. What? Why is that? Well, because you don't really know. You don't understand it yourself. And if you start asking yourself questions, you may start questioning what's happening to you because you can't see it happening.
They're a difficult group. They're very, I guess, because of some of the stuff they've been through, they're very trigger happy with snapping. If you ask questions, they get kind of, I mean, some of them, they get angry pretty fast if they think you're not on board with their way of life.
Their reality.
Yeah.
And they use that a lot. Like your reality, my reality, their reality.
They say
But
my
then-
truth, your truth, my truth.
Yeah, my truth. That's it, my truth. But then you bring up when you bring up what you say, and they're like, no, but that's your fucking truth, and they're angry about my truth. So why do we have different truths here? And if there are separate truths, why can't I have mine and you have yours? Like it just doesn't make sense, and it's like a layout.
And the
since
one
it's a
thing,
layout-
the one
Go.
thing with that community, obviously they have a lot of victim mentality in that community because in a lot of ways they are victims of things. But if you go to, say you go to a gay pride thing and you ask a guy like, why are you in a thong on a parade? Like, how is that good for this community? Like, why can't you just wear, normal clothes, quote unquote, and walk down the street and be happy. Like, why are you wearing nipple covers? Like, what does that have to do with being gay? That's just a type of, that's your sexual preference. Why? Like that, to me, that's dragging that community down, because anybody that's on the fence is going to see some guy in a Speedo and a girl with nipple covers walking down the street and be like, I don't want my kids looking at this. Like it's almost seems like vulgar. Like you're losing allies just by the way you're conducting yourselves. Like it's kind of, and you can't ask them that, because then they're like, you're very against you for thinking that's wrong. It's like, I don't care what this parade is. If someone was walking down in a Speedo and nipple covers, I don't want my kid there. And
Yeah. And all I did was ask you why you're doing it.
yeah,
I didn't tell you it's wrong. I just wanted to know why. I don't know if it's right or wrong. Right now, I might think it's wrong, but if you could just tell me why you're doing it, maybe I can change my opinion.
well, and
But
if you walk
if your
down the
why is
street,
to yell at me,
and if you walk down that same street any other day, you're gonna get arrested for wearing that same outfit. So why is it okay during Pride? It's like, it's just they're doing more harm to that community by doing stuff like that than if they dressed normal and did everything else the same. I mean, it's that, those are just my things like that. I mean, I feel like that's a simple question that they are going to jump down your throat if you ask. Like, why is this
Well-
dude in a Speedo and a thong, and this girl just got her boobs out, their nipple covers on? What does that have to do with your sexual orientation and being proud to be a part of that community? Like, that's it. Just, I don't know.
I don't think it has anything to do with the community. I think it has to do with the need to be the hero for that victimization. Like I said, it's like you want to be noticed
Yeah,
in
they're
that
gonna. Yeah,
community,
right.
so it just keeps escalating. So you just,
Yeah.
how do you get noticed when everybody else is? You have to keep taking it a step above and above and above and above.
Yeah, and a lot of gay people are eccentric, so to be noticed in that community, it's almost, you almost have to be naked out there to get noticed, and that,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. But it's not helping them in certain ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and I agree, dude. I agree. And to me, when I look at all of the communities, they all do that. Everybody. Think about MAGA and Trump, and when they
Yeah, they did
did,
the
like,
same
dude,
shit.
there's always they fucking the Viking hat. Like, what the fuck is that? Why the fuck are you dressed like a Viking, bro?
Well, they have girls at their rallies in skimpy clothes and looking like, I mean, something I don't want my kid to be at either. I mean,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's, I agree. It's like,
And then they look at it like they're different, and they all look at it like they're the victim. Like,
yeah, that's very true. There, it's, everybody wants to get noticed, and it's not. It's more of an ego thing than it is actually you want to push. You want to help out a cause. You know what I mean?
they're not, exactly. They don't want it to end. They don't
Right.
want it to end. There's a oh man, what the hell's his name? Booker T. Washington was a goddamn slave. He was just a slave, dude. He got out, whatever. And he has a quote that I fucking love. It's like, there's a lot of leaders of these civil rights movements that claim to want to help our community, but they really don't want it to end because they lose all their power.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
not actually fixing anything. It's if, and that's ask them this question: if all these problems are solved, what are you going to do with your life?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's say everything you're fighting for is fixed. Now, what do you do?
I've
with
asked
your
people this
life?
question. You know what they say? Well, that's not going to happen in my lifetime, so I don't have to
Boom.
worry about it. That's what they say.
Boom. So think about that for a second. What's like, I don't know. It just, you're just already gave up.
Yeah.
And they're right, though. It's not. The only way you fix it is if you walk away from it and it's not part of your life anymore. That's what people don't understand. If you walk away from a lot of this shit, man, it can disappear. I think about it all the time with all the stuff I think about. Like, oh, I could just walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, but with that phone in your hand, you really can't. Like, you have to be detached. 'Cause
Completely.
yeah, like it's just a couple keywords away or an Instagram post, and it's right back in your thoughts, and it's taking away your energy. And I mean, it's crazy. You're really not unplugged anymore unless you leave your phone in the house and you go do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's the truth. Now, what do you think about trying to be the hero of your group, especially when it comes to all of the groups that we're seeing now? There's a bunch of them, dude.
But yeah, I feel like every year there's a new group coming out. It's ridiculous.
And they get
Like-
bigger. They add letters
So now they just added a plus sign, I believe.
and a minus sign, right?
Hey, what time did you wake up this morning, man?
5:30.
Yeah, I got up at 5, but you look tired, man. All our friends from home were like, I thought Eddie quit smoking because it's 5.
No, yeah. But I mean, it's like the leaders, it's like you said, like it's so true though, because it's like they said, like it'll never happen in their lifetime. That's why they do it. But like they're not gonna they're not gonna stop. It's never gonna end. And like you said, Bill, like if it does stop, like they're never gonna do anything with their life after that.
They
So
develop their life around it. So that is what defines
they
them.
tweak it. They might tweak it and change a few things, but they don't fix anything.
They're the creators of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look for it. They create a statistic about it.
And like
And
you
then
said,
now
like
it's the truth.
like
It's like
the- like
they
the,
want it to be true.
like you've brought up a couple of times about like the Malcolm X thing with the Elijah Muhammad and the KKK. It's like that's what's going to continue to happen. It happened, I'm sure, before them, and it's going to continue to happen. Like I want to be surprised if some leader from the LGBTQ community, MAGA, and Black Lives Matter sit down at a table and eat and say, all right, how are we gonna
You
How
already
we do
you
this.
already know I agree with all that. So
like
They do, dude. And the best part about it is there's some CIA agent in every one of them. And
Yeah.
they're at these meetings pretending
confirm
to
that, Mike?
be, the reason that story is even really known is one, because they killed Malcolm X. In the book I have, it's because there was a CIA agent that was undercover for the KKK at that meeting. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure one of the guys with the in the Nation of Islam were also undercover,
yeah.
not manipulating, the plan at all. They were just there trying to figure out what they were doing, not there to manipulate and create what was about to happen.
Like nine times out of 10, the government is somehow involved in an assassination. I mean, our government lost in court to Martin Luther King's family. They were found guilty of killing Martin Luther King in court. And where's that in the history books? We never learned that in school. So and Martin Luther King's family is not allowed to talk about it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, dude. But that's what I mean. It's just another group that they were in control of to minimize the amount, the size of these black groups, right? Because if they were all together in one, it'd be huge. So and that's what kind of happening now. It's all becoming this one big group. They got rid of they're kind of getting rid of the religions. They're kind of getting rid of all these other little things that you can kind of create your personality. And now it's like Black Lives Matter. So now it's literally your
and
skin
think
color.
about how manipulative that title is. Black Lives Matter. So if you disagree with anything that group has, Black Lives don't matter.
Don't
now?
matter. So
Bro,
simple, dude.
What a great name for an organization, because if you dispute anything they say, you're automatically like a racist, man.
So smart, dude.
It's incredible.
So smart. So smart. And then on top of it, it's like, well, your life can't matter until Black Lives Matter.
Well, yeah, the dumb people automatically say, well, white lives matter too, or all lives matter.
All lives matter. Oh, what are you talking about? Do they? And then
It's
the
such a
other one,
great name for an organization when you think about all the chaos. It comes just from the name, like just from the name.
dude, it was so smart, dude. Such a good tactic. It really is. And then now you have skin color, sexual proclivity and gender, and then you have political party.
Mhm.
And it's like the political party is fighting to create the most victim groups. Name one group that's not a victim. Name one group that doesn't feel victimized. And then I will say that victim mentality is not the way to manipulate people. Name one that is not the victim.
Well, so all those groups will say white males aren't victims, but if you ask white males, they will say they are. So
Ask the KKK if they're not victims.
yeah, of course they
Because
think.
if you for 1 second believe that the KKK is doing this because they feel, I guess you really can't ask them because they do, I guess, maybe feel superior, but inside, dude, they feel like fucking victims. They feel like they're being stripped of something that they deserve. And now they're going to take it out on something that they see that's beneath them. Like my last podcast with the guy David about abortion, if I brought up anything about white males or straight, it was like, it's not going to be good. Not going to be good. But then and then he's like, but I feel, and then I said, like, pride's not good. And he's like, yeah, but like the LGBT community, And then he said that Christians also, it's like, I think pride destroyed the Christians. And it's like, why is pride good for some groups, but pride is evil for other groups? It's like, it's actually both. It's good and bad for all of the groups, right? You can't just pick what pride is good and what pride is bad. You can't do that. Right? Like it's insane. Do you think there's any, like, what you tell me? Do you have any group that you think does not have a victim mentality? I can't think of any. Collective narcissists are created through victimization, dude. Like, that's what these groups are. They're all a bunch of victims that think they're a victim because of one human dimension.
There was a not a car accident, like a little fender bender in Portland. You got to look up this viral video. Maybe you can embed it at the end. There's these two people fighting in Portland, and they have the definition of a victim mentality. This Native American guy screams at her, "You are a white lady. You're a colonizer." Blah blah blah. And then she's like, "It is not about race." And then they start fighting about different topics that have nothing to do with how bad they are driving, and they're screaming back and forth. And it was like perfect because you can just see how programmed their minds are by what kind of media they're taking in. Like, they're just spitting out bullshit that has nothing to do with you getting cut off in traffic, and you're using that against them in an argument. It was just, I mean, it's sad. I didn't even laugh because it's just so outrageous.
And what about, that's a good point you brought up with driving. Why there's not a single person that I know that has ever sat there and been like, I was cutting these people off. It felt great. God, it's fucking awesome. Never in my life have I ever heard that. But I do hear, you should have seen these fucking assholes out on the road. They can't fucking drive. They're flipping everybody off, dude. It's like the world is just out to drive around you and treat you like shit, dude, in your car.
Yeah.
Nobody, like, seriously, people freak out in their cars all the time what other people are doing.
Dude, people are so pent up and angry. And then it just comes out when they're driving for some reason. Like, they're
because you're safe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also have this huge weapon you're driving around. It's like, it never really made sense to me to be angry driving. I kind of let it all go off the bat. Like, I don't get too angry.
I don't get angry.
Yeah.
I hardly get angry anymore, dude.
If someone says something to me, I laugh at them. Like, I think that's even worse for them. Like, if you laugh at them, like, what are you doing? And it's like, that's not what they want to see. They want to see you angry too. Or
they want that. They feed off of you getting angry. Like, I was talking to this about somebody, and I was like, when somebody's trying to get at you, like when they're yelling at you for something stupid, or they're trying to manipulate you, or they're being angry with you, if you just smile and say, okay, Watch the reaction. It's going to be completely different. Have you screamed back? If you scream back, they're going to fucking love it. It's going to look like they hate it, but they're going to love it. And they're going to keep continuing this because they're getting attention. If you smile and be like, okay, they get fucking angrier and angrier and angrier because like, why the fuck aren't you snapping out right now? I want you to snap out. You need to snap out. I'm trying to offend you. When somebody says this stuff to me, I get offended. So that's supposed to happen to you. And when you look at these people doing these things, man, what they're doing is literally yelling at themselves. They're basically manifesting all of their bad traits into other people. So they see all their bad traits in other people. And instead of embracing and taking care of it, they're going to fix it in you. So it's like, I look at Mike and I'm like, I hate I don't like biting my inside of my cheek. So I just see Mike doing it right there. And I'm like, fuck, Mike, you got to stop doing that shit. It's unhealthy, dude. It's unhealthy. It's not good for you. And then I'm sitting there doing it because I'm not going to fix myself. I want to fix Mike. Think about all the people that have come up to you about one of your bad habits. Like my mom, like, stop drinking Red Bull, stop doing this while they're smoking or while they're drinking. It's like they want to point out your flaws because they don't want to acknowledge their own flaws.
Yeah, or it also, I mean, certain people, it's because they care more about you than they do themselves. That's a part of it. Like your parents.
But I still think that that's where the victim mentality comes from.
Yeah.
Is that it's not really, my parents are a little different too, but at the same time, like, I think parents are a little different than your parent. But some parents take that to the extreme too. It's like they want to fix you because they can't fix themselves. So now they're constantly yelling and screaming or the opposite. They're always praising you and trying to make you happy because they're always sad. So now they're praising you and doing this. Or again, the opposite, yelling at you, screaming at you, telling you how much of a piece of shit you are. Like they just, because they never fixed whatever it is in themselves and they're not living the way that they're kind of talking about people that you should be living this way, but they're not actually living it because they haven't fixed it in themselves. They're trying to paint everybody else to get perfect. Everybody's waiting for the world to change. Nobody wants to change. So when I say a solution, man, the solution is to, when you get to the point in this podcast where you feel triggered and you're like, I'm an idiot, keep listening. That's the key. When you get triggered, keep listening, because that you're about to learn something about yourself that you did not think was, like, you're about to just learn something about yourself. And I've realized that in myself. When I watch things or when something would trigger me, I'm like, fuck this. You just cut it out. You want to avoid it completely. So next time you're triggered, watch what's triggering you and just fucking pay attention to it. And then look inside to fix it. Stop trying to fix other people.
I think that's a good answer. What's a way out is that you got to get someone to question what they're doing, question their lifestyle, ask themselves some difficult questions, and be honest with yourself, because from that is only growth. I mean, once you start asking yourself difficult questions and you're honest with yourself, I mean, that's how you're going to grow.
Bro, I once asked somebody a question very recently. I asked them a question, and it was a why question. And their response was screaming at me in I don't deserve to be asked questions. I only answer to myself.
How's that work?
That's how it works, dude.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
What did you ask her?
What did I ask her?
Yeah, I bet it was a smart ass question.
No, it wasn't a smart ass question, dude. It was a very, very easy couple questions. One was,
what's your gender?
No. This was different. So I asked somebody, it's very controlling, why I don't want to say names, why somebody couldn't, fuck it. I asked somebody why their daughter couldn't dye their hair. Their daughter was like 14 years old, and she got mad because she dyed her hair, part of her hair. And I asked her that question.
So it was like you were questioning her parenting.
Sort of, but yeah. Well, because she called to yell at me about this. So I just asked, why can't she have it? and she told me that because she said so. I was like, all right. I said, all right, because you said so. That's fine.
The
But I
classic
also
parent
said,
thing.
I said, I'm just fucking talking about it. I don't give a fuck. Fuck this. She said, then I said, well, it's been, she's been visiting for now over 3 weeks. And the first time you're calling me is to yell at me, to yell at her. I said, I've been posting pictures of her volunteering at like this deer saving thing. I posted a picture of riding a bike for the first time. Posted pictures of helping out with the kids, of cooking dinner. Like I've been doing all these things for 3 weeks. You never texted me to say, hey, how's she? That's awesome. You didn't even call her. Still has not asked how she's doing. You called me one time.
Yeah, that's messed
and it
up.
was to yell. So it wasn't even necessarily about the hair, right? But I know that me just being like whatever, it doesn't help anybody. So I asked a question, and then she just got like even more mad at me and all this, dude. And I sent you money, and it went way deeper. I won't get all to the rest of it, but that was my point. It was like you were waiting for the one negative, right? And I said, it's sad. It's honestly sad because if you were acknowledging the positives and this was like with all of that, I have no problem with it. The fact that you never acknowledged a good thing and nothing, you didn't apologize. You did not acknowledge a single positive thing that you saw. You only addressed the negative and you wanted to yell.
It
So
sounded
that tells me what
she
you
was.
are.
It sounded like she was mad that in 3 weeks you were more of a parent than she has
Not
been
me.
14
Not
years.
me.
Well,
Not me. Not me.
you-
My wife.
Yes.
I'll take you credit. Yeah, my wife's way better. She's just a good person.
I don't want to be more of a dick, but what color was the hair?
So it was blonde. Like, so Kristen dyed her hair. Kristen bleaches her hair. So Kristen was doing her hair, and then she asked if she could get like hair in the front. And then I'm not gonna.
So it wasn't like green or blue or anything crazy.
No,
It was blonde.
It was blonde hair.
All right, that helps.
And she's 14. Right. And like at home, she's not allowed to hang out with friends. She's not allowed to do anything. So like she's not allowed to create herself. So I guess Kristen didn't see the harm and because why? Like, I don't know. So I guess Kristen didn't ask because it was like, why would she not be allowed to do this? She's 14. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I think it was important to clarify that it wasn't green or blue or something crazy because
No, it was just blonde hair.
yeah, just
blonde hair.
some highlights.
Blonde hair and and she was smiling. That's probably what really pissed it off, was that there was a smile on her face. It's sad, man. It's really sad. And that's where I get with the whole victim mentality. It's like, you're going to create one.
Mhm.
So is that what you want? You're making yourself feel better by putting somebody down, and then you're going to create this again. Because what happens? You just start mimicking and you start doing the same things that were done to you. Because that's all you know. You are your surroundings. Don't do that to people. Don't do that to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel terrible, but hey, man, you can't force people to change. And unfortunately, sometimes when you ask people questions, you're now the bad guy. So now I'm the bad guy. I'm okay with being the bad guy. I'm done like not telling the truth and just pretending like everything
Hey,
is
man,
okay.
there could be good that comes out of it. So that doesn't make you the bad guy, it just makes you the bad guy in the moment. I mean, you could be the good guy in the long run. It's just it's necessary. I mean, you're helping
Exactly.
somebody. Yeah.
And but that's not how it's looked at, right? It's looked at as I'm attacking somebody for no reason or attacking her for whatever. And it's like, again, it comes down to, there's no way that I can help you besides telling you the truth and asking you questions. It hurts. I know it hurts. It's been done to me. it feels like you're being fucking attacked. It feels like you're being stabbed a million times when this happens. Because in your head, you know the real answer. And that's why you're acting this way. Because you know what's in there and you don't want to let it out. And your family doesn't want to ask you these questions that they also know the answer to, because they don't want to destroy their illusion of who you should be. But if they want to help you, they'll stop lying to you. They'll stop doing these things, and they'll start to tell you the truth, because that's the only way you're going to get better. What do therapists do? Therapists tell you you're beautiful the whole time when you're sitting in therapy? No, they ask you questions and make you start to talk. That's the purpose of it, is to get you to come out of your shell and feel comfortable, and then you start talking and you feel better. You know, that's why people are fucking petrified of therapists, because they know you're going to ask you questions and they don't want to think about it.
Yep.
You know? You know what I mean?
Yes,
You got any other victims? Because Ed looks like he's ready for bed.
Nah, no more victims for today. No more victims for today. Dude, we get close to that. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share here?
No, I think that was a good conversation. I mean, we could build on this too. I mean,
I think it goes deeper.
yeah.
I think it goes way deeper. There's a lot of topics that it brought up for me.
We could come back to this, because I'm sure there'll be current events that we could tie into it coming up shortly. I'm positive.
100% positive. Every current event has to do with creating a victim, bro.
Yes, it does.
That you need to get, the only way you get them victim groups to fucking march is to give them an enemy.
I mean, like Bill said, like I feel like a lot of people enjoy playing the victim because it's easy, and like if you want to get out of it, like you have to want it. It's the same with like alcoholism and like drug addiction. Like if you really want it, like you gotta want it and do it. Like nobody's gonna do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
That's the truth, man. I'll tell you what this subject did when I was reading about it. It turned me pro-life across the board. I am now pro-life.
Just because you didn't like that conversation?
No, not because of that, but it did stir from one of the comments that he made, that
I'm just
one of the comments he made was that abortion, housing, and medical care should be human rights. So then I started to think, well, what are human rights? Like when you look across the board, what's a human right? And to me, the only human right is to live till you die. That's really it. So if you're going to strip away life, then nothing else fucking matters. Right?
yeah.
That's just kind of where I went with it.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Like I said before, I really find it hard to get into this, but I think that the whole abortion thing comes in. I mean, it really, to me, is simple. It's like, do you believe in God or don't you? And if you believe in God, it's almost kind of hard to justify abortion. And people try to say, like he tried to say, we can't nail down when a being becomes sentient, or when a being gets its soul or its consciousness. So he's saying maybe we tie it into the central nervous system, or that the heartbeat doesn't matter. And it's just like, well, if you are admitting that we cannot drill down when that soul enters that body, or the consciousness, however you want to call what makes us human, if you want to say that we can't nail down, then I mean, how can you say when we can kill that clump of cells then? Because you just admitted we don't know if that it has a soul or not. So you could be killing it. You can't, you just admitted you can't tell. So it's kind of hard for me, because I mean, I've always been.
I just think everybody deserves to live. That's
yeah.
it.
And I know a lot of people that have had single moms in difficult situations, and they produce some great people. So
Very good people. We have people that come from hard times create.
I mean, almost everybody's favorite celebrities have grown up from difficult situations, and it's just it's a shitty thing to be involved in, but
It is. don't get me wrong, man. It's not like, I don't know. I just was thinking about it a lot. I'm like, we also have the all these human rights, and it's always this thing that we can do when we're adults or whatever. But it should start with like, dude, like, well, I want to be here first.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. That's a great counterpoint that you're talking about human rights, but you're denying
You're
the life.
denying the
You're denying-
human.
yeah, you're denying the life, the right
Yeah.
to live.
Right.
Like that no matter what you say, that clump of cells would develop into a life. And
And I even thought
denying
about
it.
it more because of all the medical stuff, right? When people are like, well, there's all these medical things. So I'm like, all right, yeah, but that's the truth. We have the right to life, right? So if we have the right to live and there's something that's going to happen to you that's going to kill you, just like if I'm going to get shot, if somebody breaks in my house and they have a gun, I'm allowed to kill them. I'm not allowed to do it any other time, but I'm allowed to do it if they're going to take my life. So when it comes to abortion, if that baby's going to kill me, I'm allowed to save my life by having an abortion.
Yeah.
So I even like went down that whole thing. I'm like, I'm fucking pro-life, and I think it goes no different than murder and self-defense. It's like that baby was going to kill me. So
Yeah.
right, like now you have the choice, or I can let it kill me, just like in self-defense. I can let this person kill me.
And people love to bring up like, first of all, if he's talking about people using IUDs, I sold birth control. If you have an IUD, it's over 99% effective.
But that's what I'm talking about with the
Like
statistics.
he's bringing up non situations like that. It's so rare for that to fail that it's a 0.0%. Like and that's what people who are pro-choice bring up: the rapes, the failed IUDs, the broken condoms.
And they're very small.
So small. First of all, and that another topic is the morning after pill. Like, all right, if you had a broken condom, go get that. I mean, you can get
Like-
that over the counter at CVS. And yeah, I'm sure most people would agree. Maybe that's not a developed life yet, and you don't need to have an abortion because that's kind of a gray area. I don't think that is an abortion. So it's tricky, man. It's a tough.
It is. It is.
I feel like the only qualm, I guess you could say, that I have with the pro-life was there was this billboard that I used to drive by every day going to work when I still lived back in PA that was like, the heartbeat starts at like 18 days, which is a complete false. It's like 5 weeks. And like that billboard used to irk me because I'm like if I'm all for putting that up, but just make it correct.
Yeah. I could see Eddie climbing up there with some spray paint and crossing out the.
I thought about it. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I used to drive past it every day going to work, and I'm just like, fucking fuckers, man.
But that's the point when it comes to all of this. It's usually not the truth that you believe. It's the things that validate your belief.
Yeah, right.
And I think a good topic that we actually could talk about is the difference between a truth and a belief. Like, what is knowledge and what is a belief?
I like
can
to
you
say
distinguish between the two?
I like to say I don't believe anything. I know things and I'm working to know things. So like belief has.
I'm the opposite.
Belief has lie right in the middle. So I mean, I think when they developed the English language, I think they did that on purpose. I mean, belief has a lie right in the middle. So it's really not something that you should have, because if you can't prove something to yourself, it's kind of.
Well, shouldn't you look at a belief that way, right? Like I feel like, but the only way that you have knowledge is by trying to figure out, starting with a belief. You have to believe something in order to figure it out. Like, that's where science starts. Science starts with a belief.
An idea.
But you have to know that it's a belief.
I would call it an idea or curiosity. I wouldn't call it a belief, because if it's a belief, then you get into confirmation bias, and like you're saying, you're trying to confirm that your idea is right. But the scientific method is supposed to be against confirmation bias. It's supposed to have all different kinds of control groups and things to try and make sure that your belief isn't going to come out in the end because you want it to.
Right.
So
I think you got me there. I just the definition of it is an acceptance that a statement is true.
Hmm.
Where I look at it as I think this is true, but I don't know. Right? Like that's how I look at when I think belief. I'm thinking this is what I believe. Like, is it wrong? And I try to figure it out. But you're right. Curiosity or idea is probably a better way to justify it. We can get into that another time. But that's
It's
a
amazing.
lot of people believe. A lot of people just have all these beliefs that are like it must be true because
But
I
or they
believe.
don't even try to see if their beliefs are right or wrong. My thing always from a young kid is like I never held anything so sacred that I couldn't have it changed. Like my mind was never.
Eddie just fell asleep, dude.
No, I was texting the wife.
All right, we'll let.
How did you not hold anything sacred to you when you were fucking a witness of Jehovah himself, dude?
I never really was like I was a kid in a religion. Like Eddie wasn't an altar boy or anything like that. Like he was in a religion. Like it's not like I was some kind of devout religious person. I never really believed in certain religious things. I mean, now that I'm older, I'm starting to believe more in God because I see a lot of things are lies and some things are kind of making me question what I used to believe. So my mind has always been open to new things, and that's
Yeah.
kind of
And that's what fucks us, to be honest.
yeah.
That's
But
what makes
people
us
that
what
are
we are.
stuck in their ways are the worst kind of people because you can't reason with them. I mean, all these people that we just talked about in this whole conversation, they're stuck in their ideas and can't take criticism or
They didn't watch this, so it doesn't matter. Their ego didn't let them get this far, dude.
definitely true. So like I
Get
said,
this far.
I never had any ideas. I mean, I was always pro-life to be honest, but I was never there was never too many ideas that I just held so sacred that I couldn't have them changed. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I hear you, brother. I hear you. But look, man, I'm gonna let you go because Eddie's over here falling asleep. I know you can't see him, but he was just sleeping over there. And I gotta eat too. I'm hungry. But I'm gonna let you guys go. We'll get back to this. We're gonna do our book starting in 2 weeks again. We're gonna get back on our books. We're gonna do the book that I'm gonna be reading now for the, I guess I'll say second and a half time. And we're gonna dig deeper into that book. All right, boys.
All right, you guys.
Sounds
And we
good.
also have Gennell joining us, so we're having
That's gonna be dope.
a four-man book review, dude. So we're getting a little bigger here. We're gonna form our own victim group. All right, boys. Have a good one, man.
Later.
Peace.